Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we are going to go over how to encourage an avoidant individual to learn to be comfortable with apologizing, okay? Now, this is not a one size fits all approach, but I do feel like this is very helpful to individuals, especially if they're in a long term relationship with their partner and their partner is not comfortable with apologizing, okay? So, the very first way to encourage your partner to be more comfortable with apologizing is actually leading with understanding rather than accusation. Avoidant individuals, especially dismissive avoidants, they are stubborn. I'm just being honest, right? And they often resist apologizing because they feel attacked or misunderstood. So you can start by calmly acknowledging their perspective, then following up with your perspective, okay? Or not even following up, but hearing what they say next. I know you didn't mean to hurt me. And I get that you see things differently. To me, that was very hurtful and I would appreciate an apology. Something very simple. And that allows it to be softened. Instead of saying, that really hurt me, can't you see that I'm crying? That might put them on the defensive. Saying that I know you didn't mean to hurt me, and I understand that you see things differently than I do, that allows them to feel like you respect them and they're able to open that door for actually self-reflection, okay? The next one is actually appealing to avoidance values. In general, this can help connecting with an avoidant, okay? Now, I work with so many of avoidants, and most of them are dismissive or fearful leaning dismissive, so this one might be more leaning towards in that direction. Most of these are, but this one is much more particular with dismissive avoidance, okay? Avoidant individuals, they have a strong sense of pride, integrity. Some of them might even say like justice and values, right? They're very they have a very strong, their perspective of a moral compass, right? And so sometimes what can happen is you can frame that apology in a way that aligns with those values that they have. You know your partner's values, so whatever their values are. I'm just giving examples of what's typically seen in my office. So you can say something, I know you care about doing the right thing, and I honestly believe that you do the right thing overall. I feel hurt about this, and I know you didn't mean to hurt me. I think all I would want is an apology for you. That would make me feel acknowledged, and that would make me really understand how much you want to do the right thing, because I know that you do. And this will make me feel like that. And I always appreciate you. Whatever you need to say to align to their values, and this is just an example, but it allows you to recognize that your partner sees things a little bit differently than you do, and sometimes allowing them to feel that way as well, that they can learn from you while still holding on to their own values makes them feel much more comfortable in the space of apologizing, because apologizing can feel very vulnerable and they're not very comfortable with that feeling. And so that's very important, okay? The next one is sometimes it can help if you give your partner a small amount of space after a disagreement. Doesn't mean a lot of it, but sometimes avoidant individuals, their reaction to pressure is sometimes they can become even more defensive. And so by letting your partner reflect without pushing, can sometimes be very helpful. So just step back with a little bit of space, right? So you can say, okay, I think this, disagreement got a little bit out of hand. I'm going to step back a little bit. I'm going to, dinner's going to be ready at 6 p.m. So maybe after dinner we can talk, but, I'll be in the kitchen and I expect to see you at 6 p.m., whatever it is. And so you allow them to have a little bit of space. Maybe the disagreement happened at noon, or maybe it happened at 3 p.m. So it's like just a couple hours. I'm not saying give them like a week. Maybe if you guys are in the early stages of the relationship, but if you're in a longer situation, long-term situation, a couple hours is more than enough, okay? The next one is modeling behavior. It's important that you share responsibility, right? Own your part. This can encourage your partner to do the same. Sincerely apologize on your own missteps or things that you feel like maybe you could have done better. And that allows your partner to really recognize not only are they understood, but they also get their needs met as well. Avoidant individuals do not like being the only one in the relationship. It's one of their fears that's doing everything. In their mind, they feel like their fear is to lose autonomy, right? And if they're the only one apologizing, if they're the one giving in all the time, if they're the one that's changing, they feel like their personality and who they are is being molded to you. And I know that's not the reality of it for most of you guys, but it feels like that to an avoidant. And so when you apologize, they already feel that that's not going to happen. And so their fear is like immediately dissipating. And so that fear that's creating the barriers is no longer there. They're going to be much more likely to apologize. So you can say, I've thought about what happened. And you know what? I'm sorry for raising my voice. I didn't handle that very well. I hope that we can move on, but please know my apologies is sincere, right? So that lowers defenses, and it also sets an example. You're calm, you're collected, you say you want to move on, and you also apologize. Speaking of appealing to an avoidance values, avoidance really like when you say, we can move on, or it's not that big of a deal, because they don't like holding on to arguments. And so when you say that or put that in your language, that really helps them to appeal to what you're hearing, okay? The next one, which y'all know if you watch my videos, you already expected this one was coming. Avoid shaming or ultimatums. I'm not a fan of them. I work with a lot of avoidants. A lot of them are not a fan of them. It's very important to recognize it usually feels like you're guilting them to doing something, and it does backfire. Another reason why this could backfire, which I don't know if I've ever brought this up on my channel, but it's a very common one, is when they feel like you're giving them an ultimatum. Let's say you're giving them an ultimatum. They actually feel like they're hurting you so much beyond pain that it actually makes them feel like they should just leave you because you're in so much pain that you would do this or put them in a corner. Maybe you're crying and they might say, every time we talk about this argument or this issue, you always cry. Maybe I'm not good enough for you. So they don't like that they're hurting you, and they feel like an ultimatum is proof that you're at your breaking point. And often that doesn't motivate an avoidant to change. It makes them feel, oh my God, I really am bad at relationships. I have to leave. I'm a problem, right? It actually motivates them to leave. And so instead of saying things like, if you really love me, you'd say sorry, that doesn't very much help, right? You could say something like, I'm very hurt and I'm expecting an apology, but I know that somewhere inside you're trying to work on it because I've seen you made progress. But sometimes what really helps me is you just saying sorry. I know that you're working on it and I can see that. And that is enough for me. But saying that you're sorry verbally just makes it easier for me to really feel like this is truly happening. It reassures me. It's something I need, right? And so you didn't put them in a corner, but you are saying it's very important to you, okay? The next one is explain why it matters. Maybe sometimes your partner doesn't realize the actual emotional importance of an apology. Some avoidant individuals actually feel like apologizing can be like beating a dead horse. Like it's like not beating around the bush, kind of like beating a dead horse, where you're like continuously going back in an issue that was already fixed. And this even means if you hurt them. A lot of you guys might know this, I'm not sure, but this is very common that I see in my office. An avoidant individual, when you hurt them, they sometimes don't want an apology. They just want you to fix it and move on. The apology makes them feel like either it's insincere or you're not moving on, or you guys are just talking and rehashing the same issue over and over. And so they don't actually value apologies that much, honestly. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but I'm just being completely 100% honest with you. Avoidant individuals, sometimes they don't need an apology. It's nice, but sometimes they'd rather just process it by themselves and you just fix it. They don't want to think about it. An apology makes them have to think about it. And remember, avoidant individuals don't really like those uncomfortable feelings. And so what you can do is you can explain how your partner's words, actions, whatever it is, make you feel and how you feel like an apology would help. We just kind of gave an example of this. But maybe you could say it hurt me. Even just hearing that you understand me would really help me to move forward. It's all I need. An apology helps me. I know you are sorry and I can already see progress, but you saying it makes me so happy. And I feel like that would make me feel, a little less anxious. So I would appreciate that, right? That is very important. Now, the last one I feel like is very important as well. I would say it's one of the most important ones, but it might not be what y'all are looking for, but I'm just trying to help, okay? Sometimes it's important to appreciate the avoidance version of an apology. Pride is a huge barrier for avoidant individuals. Sometimes this helps them being able to apologize without making them feel diminished or small. Right? Maybe you can accept their gesture as a version of apology. Maybe they give an affectionate comment. Maybe they're more gentle. I see a lot of individuals when an avoidant feels bad that they hurt you, they're like, they're kissing you more, they're hugging you more. Maybe they're doing things that you asked for. I have some couples where it's like maybe the anxious preoccupied feels like she's always the one, I don't know, cleaning up the house or doing something. And anxious preoccupied is not always female, just an example. And that's something that really bothers her, but it's not really that big of a deal. But maybe he felt really bad that he, I don't know, didn't answer his text message. So something that's more about his avoidant attachment issue. But he's like, I feel really bad. I'm going to try fixing that. But he's also going to fix all the other things that she's been asking for. And it's not that he's trying to manipulate her. He genuinely means it. And so accept that as their version of an apology. Sometimes it can help to recognize and reflect so that you don't feel negative towards them, okay? I hope this makes sense. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.